When people think about wars in the Middle East, they usually think about oil, bombs, soldiers, and politics. But almost nobody talks about the real winner of these conflicts. Not countries, not armies, not even oil companies. The real winner has always been the US dollar. For over 70 years, America has fought, influenced, funded, and controlled wars in oil-rich regions. And every single time, the US dollar walked away stronger than before. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is economic history. To understand how oil wars strengthened the US dollar, we need to go back to a time when the dollar itself was in danger. The dollar problem after World War II. After World War II, the United States was the most powerful country on Earth. Europe was destroyed. Asia was rebuilding. America was producing everything. In 1944, the U.S. created the Bretton Woods system, which made the dollar the world's reserve currency. Every major currency was tied to the dollar, and the dollar was tied to gold. At first, this system worked perfectly, but by the late 1960s, America had a serious problem. The U.S. was spending insane amounts of money on the Vietnam War, on military bases worldwide, on welfare programs, and global influence. America was printing more dollars than it actually had gold to back them. Foreign countries noticed. They started demanding gold instead of dollars. This scared Washington. In 1971, President Nixon made a historic move. He removed the dollar from gold. From that moment on, the US dollar became a fiat currency, backed by nothing except trust. And trust alone is not enough to control the world. America needed something bigger, something every country would always need, something more powerful than gold. That something was oil. The birth of the petrodollar. In the early 1970s, the U.S. made a secret but legendary deal with Saudi Arabia. The deal was simple but genius. Saudi Arabia would sell oil only in U.S. dollars, invest its oil profits in U.S. banks and bonds, and support U.S. financial dominance. In return, the U.S. would protect Saudi Arabia militarily, supply weapons, and guarantee regime security. This deal later expanded to all OPEC countries. This is how the Petrodollar System was born. From that moment on, every country on Earth that needed oil, which is literally every country, had to first get US dollars. No dollars, no oil. That single rule changed global economics forever. Now the question is, what happens if a country tries to break this system? That's where oil wars begin. Oil wars are not about oil, they're about the dollar. Most people believe the US fights wars to steal oil. That's a shallow explanation. America doesn't need to steal oil. America needs control over oil pricing, because whoever controls oil pricing controls global demand for their currency. Let's look at what happens when countries challenge the petrodollar. Iraq, the first warning. In the year 2000, Saddam Hussein made a dangerous move. He announced that Iraq would sell oil in euros instead of US dollars. At that time, Iraq had the second largest oil reserves in the world. This was a direct threat to the US dollar. If other oil-producing nations followed Iraq, global demand for dollars would collapse. 3 years later, in 2003, the US invaded Iraq. The official reason? Weapons of mass destruction. But those weapons were never found. What did change, however, was this. After the invasion, Iraqi oil sales returned to US dollars. That message was loud and clear. Challenge the petrodollar and pay the price. Libya, gold dinar nightmare. Libya's leader, Muammar Gaddafi, had even bigger plan. He didn't just want to sell oil outside the dollar system. He wanted to create a gold-backed African currency, the gold dinar, for oil trade. This would have reduced dollar dependence, strengthened African economies, and broken Western financial control. For the US and its allies, this was unacceptable. In 2011, NATO launched military action in Libya. Gaddafi was killed. The gold dinar vanished. Libya collapsed into chaos, and oil still traded in US dollars. Another challenge eliminated. Iran. Sanctions as a weapon. Iran took a different approach. Instead of military invasion, the US used economic warfare. Iran tried selling oil in euros, Chinese yuan, and barter systems. The US responded with sanctions, banking restrictions, and swift removal threats. Iran's economy suffered massively. The lesson was clear. You don't need bombs to protect the dollar. Sanctions can do the job.
Why the Middle East matters so much. The Middle East holds around 50% of the world's proven oil reserves. Whoever controls this region controls oil flow, controls pricing, controls currency demand. That's why the US maintains military bases across the region, strong alliances with Gulf monarchies, and naval control of oil routes. America doesn't occupy these areas for oil consumption. America occupies them for financial dominance. War creates dollar demand. Here's something most people miss. Wars don't weaken the US dollar. They actually strengthen it. Here's how. 1. Defense spending increases. Dollars circulate globally. 2. Arms exports paid in dollars. 3. Reconstruction loans issued in dollars. 4. Global fear. Investors rush to the dollar as a safe haven. Even during chaos, the US dollar becomes more valuable. This is why every major conflict ends with the dollar stronger than before. Oil prices and dollar power. Oil is priced in dollars globally. When oil prices rise, countries need more dollars. Dollar demand increases. Dollar value strengthens. When oil prices fall, US imports become cheaper. The American economy benefits, and the dollar still remains dominant. It's a win-win system. And wars help manage this balance. Why China and Russia are terrified of this system. China and Russia know one truth. As long as oil is priced in dollars, America controls global trade. That's why China pushes yuan-based oil contracts. Russia trades energy outside the dollar system. And BRICS talks about de-dollarization. But breaking the petrodollar is not easy because it's protected by US military power, political alliances, economic pressure, and decades of dependency. Every oil war sends one message: the dollar is non-negotiable.
Is this system starting to crack? Today, the world is changing. China is buying oil in yuan. Russia trades energy in rubles. Some countries explore digital currencies, but the truth is harsh. Over 80% of global oil trade still uses the US dollar. U.S. Treasury bonds remain the safest asset. The U.S. Navy still controls oil shipping routes. And when global uncertainty rises, money still flows into the dollar. Oil wars didn't weaken America. They cemented its financial throne. The real cost of oil wars. Yes, the US dollar became stronger, but the cost: millions of lives lost, countries destroyed, regions destabilized. Oil wars are not heroic. They are calculated. They are fought not just with guns, but with currencies. Final truth: oil wars were never just about oil. They were about protecting the petrodollar, maintaining global currency control, and ensuring permanent demand for the US dollar. As long as the world runs on oil and oil runs on dollars, America remains financially untouchable. The battlefield may change, the enemies may change, but the goal stays the same: control oil, control currency, control the world.